everyone. Welcome back to episode 57 of the Have We Made It Yet podcast. If this is your first time listening, or I guess if it could be your 57th time listening. Ooh, I know. Day one fans, y'all are the best, but even first time listeners, y'all great too. This is the podcast where two creatives and their guest talk about the process of making it. My name is Lucas Ng, the actor portion of this podcast, and I'm joined by my co-host,
the comedian formerly known as the comedian Josh Yang.
Why formerly?
I don't know, because it's like I still haven't gotten back out there yet. So I mean, we're it's comedian on hiatus, on hobbyist, on the lamb, on the whatever it is.
On the lamb. Is that phrase, like when you say on the lamb, is that LAMB?
I think it's LAM.
What does that word mean?
You know what? I actually don't. I don't know. I actually don't know the background behind it. Maybe I should have read the letter L in my sleep podcast up until now. Maybe I'll have read it, but no, we haven't gotten to the letter L yet.
I'm sure that lamb is like one of the first words on the L letter.
Yeah, L. Yeah, it's got LA. I think LA and then M, and then we'll see.
Awesome. I know you guys didn't come here to check out the letter L as written or read by Mr. Josh Yang, but as we start off with every episode, I'm going to ask the question that is the name of this podcast. Mr. Josh Yang, have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet. Then this is the 57th time that I've said I've not made it yet, because we're being honest on this podcast. And you know, I haven't made it yet, but what I can say is I've gotten my second vaccine. So we're making it out of this pandemic so far COVID free, as far as I'm concerned. But if you're watching this on YouTube, also don't be afraid of the glitching in and out of the images. I'm just being casually hacked by the Russian government. So there's plenty of different, things going on. But other than that, I got the vaccine. I feel good. And I'm also, letting the people see a little bit of that of the flow there that I've been hiding a little bit, because I finally might go get a haircut after 17 months of this hair. The hair down here was the hair that was with me when I did the show in January of last year that got recorded, the Fresh Rice set. Yes, and if you guys would like to continue to support the comedian formerly known as comedian Josh Yang, go and check that out, and you'll have seen some pieces of this hair down here. But I'm cutting that off. It's going to be new and improved, double vax Josh. So
it's crazy how, like, I just remember watching your set at the CBC Glenn Gould Theater, and the hair is completely different.
Yeah,
like you look like your average obedient schoolboy kind of guy, different glasses, but mind you too, with a nice fade out too and everything like that. Like you look like a normie, just your average copy and paste Asian guy. But basically, now you look like a David Cho kind of guy, man, like a rebellious Asian.
Whoa, is that all the hair, all the party in the back? Is that all?
And the glasses,
man.
The
glasses. Okay,
it looks tight.
We'll see. I mean, I'm only going to cut it about halfway there. So it's like, I think it gets a little bit of that, the length and the heat as well off, because it's summer. It's getting hot out there. But that's where I'm at. That's how I'm at in terms of making it. But, I'm not that interesting right now. So, but let's talk to the more interesting guy. Yeah. Of this podcast. Lucas, have you made it yet?
No, I have not. And like Josh said, this is the 57th time I have probably said no to that question. Two things though. I got double vaxxed.
Yes.
That feels good. That feels good. But on the flip side, that doesn't feel good, because I got hit by a bus. No, I didn't actually get hit by a bus, but I felt like I did, just because the mad shivers, the slight fever and everything like that. But it feels good to be on the mend right now. So fingers crossed that that I can, go outside pretty soon and explore the world being double vaxxed. But kind of luckily though, I was at the Scotiabank Arena yesterday to get my second vax, right? And when I was going down to like the playing floor, like where the Raptors play, where the Leafs play, a lady just asked me, "Hey, do you mind like interviewed or getting your picture taken for CP24?" And I was like, okay. So I signed a quick release and everything like that. Yeah. And they're like, okay, cool. Sit in this, like sit in this table then. Okay, so I'm like, cool, okay. So I have my mask on, my hair is like a big mess and everything like that. Didn't think much of it, just a person was taking photos. I'm sure they're taking photos of everybody there. But then later I was featured on the official Twitter feed of the vaccination people that were hosting it at Scotiabank Arena. So it's kind of cool. It's like, I get my own little memento of the moment. So
oh, it feels nice. Good. Hey, you know what? Any exposure is good exposure at this. And that's what we want. We want that exposure. We want that facial recognition out there. Doubt. So making it.
But Josh, though, of course, again, I'm going to make this like a little meme for myself, but there is a third screen. I'm not sure if anyone else can see it, but there is a third screen down here, which means we have a guest. 2 thumbs up, man. Are you ready, Josh?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So I was introduced to our next guest through one of our mutual friends, Josh.
That's how we get most of our guests.
I know, right. No really cold calls.
Not so far, but we're putting them out there.
Exactly. So it was one of our mutual friends, Wilson, that made this connection. He had made this introduction when I was starting out in my entertainment career, and our next guest has helped me along the way with questions I might have and catching me up on her adventures in LA as she was there. Our next guest here is a talented screenwriter and entertainment professional that has worked with Sony Pictures and STX Entertainment. Her forte in writing has landed her as a finalist at the Austin Television Festival, where she pitched her project, House of Fortune. I'm really excited to talk to her about her process and inspirations, so we'll give it up for the amazingly talented Shirley Yip.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Hey, how you feeling?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. 2 thumbs up, 2 vaxes shot in us.
So jealous. Jealous. Yeah, like we have like, so no matter what the supply is, you get it at the 8-week interval. So right. It's like whenever you got your first shot, you have to wait that 2 months. It's not first come, first serve. But we'll make it. Canadians were the highest percentage of vaccination as a country. So
nice. We beat Israel.
Yes.
Awesome. I mean, thankfully, because like what was it? A month and a half, 2 months ago, we were like the lowest. We were like getting like no shots coming in, and then finally, once the supply was coming in, we were finally able to be less embarrassed by that fact.
Exactly.
Yes, because we rely on other countries basically, but we're getting there. Not complaining.
Nice. Shirley, I'm going to ask you the epitome of this podcast here. The question: have you made it yet, Shirley?
No, absolutely not. Long way to go, I think.
Nice.
I don't know if I have a bar in terms of like, oh, I've made it. But yeah, I think I've set that bar very high. So I don't have the pressure about making it or not. But no, I have not made it.
Okay. Yeah. On about that bar that you do set.
Yes.
I like to ask this follow-up there. What's your it in making it?
I don't know. It's weird because I think maybe getting a show on the air or getting a feature made, maybe that will be it. But even then, I don't know. I don't know when I do it if I still feel like I made it. So I think it's a long journey, but yeah, I think getting something like a product or something you made and you have that credit, I think that will make me feel like I made it. But I don't know. I don't know until I achieved it. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you feel like it would be something where it's like a project got like greenlit, or it's like completed its premiere, or some kind of like objective like that? Or do you feel like you would like play by ear and it's more of a feeling, you know, it's like in the moment?
What you just said. Yeah, I think it's a feeling. I think it's a feeling more than anything. But you know, from living in LA and working in the industry, even if your thing is greenlit, it might not go. It might not go into production. Even if it goes to production, it might not wrap. And then it's like a long list of, you know, uncertainties. Yeah. So, but I don't know. I don't necessarily have a goal in terms of the make it bar, but I think this is going to be crazy, but I think it would be like an Oscar. Like I'll be like, yeah, everyone in the Academy thinks that you've made it. So, but I don't know. Don't know.
Nice. Let's start with because I totally understand that whole like meandering feeling that you might have with working in this incredibly volatile industry here first. So I did see that you graduated from the U of T with a drama specialty and also an English minor there too.
Yeah.
Then I did see that you also like moved to China to work in advertising and everything like that. What prompted you to initially make that move from Toronto to like Beijing?
Right. So you know, like I grew up in Vancouver. That's how I met our mutual friend Wilson. He was my classmate when I was in 3rd grade or something.
Whoa.
Wow.
So that's how I met Wilson. We were elementary classmates, and I think he's a grade under me, and that's how we met. And we connected years later when Facebook was invented. and so my family still had business back in China. So we moved back when I was in middle school. And I went to international school in China. And then when I graduated, I went to U of T. And originally I was like going into arts management because my parents wanted me to do business. And I was like, but I don't like, I applied for all these business schools in Canada and I got the package, you know, the admissions package. And it's like, this is the first year curriculum for commerce, you know? And then I read it. I was so bored out of, you know, accounting 100, management 100, and calculus, which I took in high school, but still. And so I was like, oh, okay, there's this alternative. It's an arts management. You have a specialty degree. And then at U of T. But then after the first year, I kind of hated that part of the management. So you get to choose a stream like visual arts, performing arts, you know, all that art history and visual arts. And I went into drama and I was like, I can't do this, but they didn't have, so I had to audition and go into the drama department. And I did. And it was you know, it's a weird experience for theater school because there aren't that many Asians in theater school. And there was a lot of, you know, hindsight, but at the time too, there's racism in school. And it's not like in your face type of racism, but it's like, you know, and we would all I went into acting first, and I did some playwriting. And we would have these casting calls for extras, right? And then all of us would apply in the same program, and only the blondes would get called to be extras. And I had a guest professor instructor for 1 year because the guy who teaches drama 300 was taking a sabbatical.
Oh, okay.
And so it was very, bad for us because we didn't get the good professor. And I had a teacher basically saying it's going to be really hard for you. And I didn't understand what she meant. I was just like, oh, am I a comedic actress and I'm a dramatic actress? But, she said something just like, oh, because you're Oriental. And I'm like, what? And so it was like that kind of, now when I think about it, it stopped me from pursuing acting and all that. And so I moved back to China and I went into advertising. I did, I travel a lot. I live a life. But then I realized that I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a writer. And I think I've always wanted to be a writer more than acting. So then I moved to LA and I took a writer's program at UCLA, and that's how I started out.
I also meant to ask you, like, just earlier on in China, was there a moment when you were working in advertising that really made you kind of reignite that fire of working entertainment? Of course, not as an actor anymore, but as a writer?
It's almost like a joke, but so Mad Men was like big show when I was in college, right? And I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Like being a copywriter, coming out with like, copy, for advertising. But then I wasn't hired as a copywriter. I was hired as the account person, which frustrated me a lot. And I'm like, I'm more creative than all of you. And you're not listening to me. Okay. And then it was like so it was rough for me. So I wasn't a creative in an advertising agency. And the joke is I wanted to write Mad Men, or I want to be in Mad Men. I didn't want to work in like Mad Men, the industry. So it was very tough in terms of there were some jobs that just didn't work out. And I was like, and initially I'm like, I'm going to move to New York and work in advertising and on Madison, it was that. But then I was like, another supervisor of mine was like, well, if you want to write, because I told him I wanted to write, you can write the next commercial. And I'm like, I don't want to write the commercial. I want to write the movie, I want to write the TV show. And so I moved back to Canada without any type of, I left my career basically, essentially.
Awesome.
I left my career in advertising. I was finally in like mid-management where I could make a living, but then I'm like, okay. And then I bought like some screenwriting books at Indigo. It's called Indigo now, not Chapters, but like I bought some screenwriting books. And then it's like, if you want to write in TV, you got to be in Los Angeles. And then I'm like, okay. And so I moved to Los Angeles. That's essentially how I got to Los Angeles. And it's also that idea that if I don't do it before I'm 30, I'm gonna just not do it. So I
just love the aspirations that you have. Like, even they gave you an opportunity to like write a commercial. You're like, nope, no commercial. I want to write a series. I want to write a feature film. You're like, no, you had aspirations and you went according to that.
Right. And everyone was rooting against it. I gotta say, like, like, especially if you're in China, you tell someone you wanted to be a screenwriter, like people are like, why? Or that's a dream, that's not something that can be done. But yeah.
You're exactly, but it's always the people that do actually push that actually get somewhere. So you're pushing. That's the
Yeah. So it's, I think it's been a while, and it's kind of like, when I got to LA, I thought, okay, I'll spend a year writing and then I'll get something good. But then as soon as you start writing, you're like, oh my God, everyone that, we have a lot of guest lectures, which is great. That's why, you're in Hollywood, the teacher knows a friend who's, and they're like, yeah, I've been working on it as an assistant for 9 years before I got a shot at writing their episode. God. And then I'm like, how does 9 year work? Why does it take that long? You're like, oh, you hear stories about a development hell, and it took 12 years for a film to get made. And then I'm like, but how? And then now I'm 5 years in, right? I'm halfway. So I think it's like you adjust your expectation and your goal as you go further into this sunken place.
Good reference.
Yeah.
Good reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely LA is like the valley of death for a lot of different aspiring creatives getting chewed out. And it's definitely not an easy environment, but it's still essentially the environment you have to be in if you want more of those opportunities to be there. Because I imagine all the big productions are there, all the pilot season that's there, and that's where most of the writers will go anyways, especially for comedy as well. I know that's the case.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you really wanted to get into writing? You realized you didn't want to write the commercial, you wanted to write the next movie, you wanted to write next TV series. Did you have a specific idea at that time that was something that you thought was just a great idea, and it just feels like it needs to be in a TV show or it needs to be in a movie?
Yes. And, I'm embarrassed to say, I've written a few scripts now, but I'm embarrassed to say that first one, I haven't figured it out. So growing up, I think, there are I watch a lot of TV, and I think it has to do with, when I was in high school and I lived in China, back then it was before streaming, right? But China has this really weird, great source of piracy. So there are places where it's all it's like a market full of fake DVDs.
Yeah.
But they have all the foreign films that you can think about. It's better than their archive is better than Queen Video or even the National Archive, because it's free for them, right? So it's I'm just gonna basically pirate any festival movie everywhere. And so I would go to, Friday after school, we'll go to this market with my best friend, and we'll buy 20 DVDs, and it would cost nothing. And that weekend or for the whole next week, I'm just watching and consuming content. And I think, and at the same time, I was living in Guangzhou, which is very close to Hong Kong, and they have the Hong Kong stations broadcast. And they used to have Sex in the City every Saturday or Sunday night. And I would watch that at 12. And that's how, you have kind of a system that you set up. But long story short, I always wanted to write my version of Sex in the City.
Nice.
And so before I moved to LA, I actually took a screenwriting class at McGill. It was a summer class, for anyone interested. And I really wanted to write something like that. Because I think it really shifted the way women talk about sex and relationships, and
Mhm.
it just kind of changed comedy in that way.
Yeah.
But I've written a iteration of that, two different pilots, actually, comedy
Nice.
pilots, and they don't work
Oh.
yet.
Where did your Sex in the City take place? Because New York is like a character in itself in that show.
Yeah, and I think maybe in 5 years, I because the thing is, I'm trying to work that out as we speak, but because I'm writing another comedy has nothing to do with the idea.
Yeah.
But for this in particular, I wanted to write about my 20s. And, you know, a few years ago, I had this idea, which is like, how there's Broad City, there's Girls,
Yeah.
which is, what some people say the millennial version of Sex and the City.
Right. Yeah.
And I recall a friend of mine that was like, Broad City is that for her.
Right.
And I was like, but they're losers. They smoke weed and they work in a gym, and like the other one's the barista. Like, I've never watched past, because I studied it, at school or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's not me. Like what? Like, or girls, like they couldn't get past the internship. What the hell is that? Like, why?
Yeah.
And I slowly, was thinking, okay, because I am an overachiever, right? To me, that is a complete loser. And like those characters, and it works for them, right?
Yeah.
It works for that particular world.
Mhm.
But for my world, like, since I went to school and most of my college friends are like bankers or accountants, or like they're executives. They're not working at a gym and smoking weed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but so I'm like, so what does that mean? What does that world mean?
Yeah.
And maybe I could find something in that where it's like, I'm the underachiever of my Asian friends, right? Because why would you not make a living, for this long writing, And so maybe there's something in that, but also maybe I could set it in somewhere like Shanghai or Hong Kong,
Cool. Yeah.
which is, it's weird because I know that Amazon have greenlit a few shows that are set there that are comedy or drama. I think Lulu Wang is doing something like that.
Cool.
Right.
About expats. And since I lived there as an expat, it would be like, oh, my version of Emily in Paris, maybe Shirley in Shanghai. I don't know.
Yo, that works. Shirley in Shanghai.
Like, can I do a spin-off Shirley in Shanghai? Because the EP for Emily in Paris is the one of the showrunners for Sex and the City. So
cool.
it made sense, right? But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a long journey for that show to happen. But in the meantime, I'm writing other things.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one more question about just your LA experience before we get into, of course, House of Fortune and everything like that. So I did see, like, back at your jobs in LA, you worked in development, also being an EA and everything like that too.
Yeah.
Those are like, pretty different, job sets of skills and everything like that. But at the same time, I'm sure all in the same industry. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to actually like go into development or be an EA and entertainment? Because I'm sure that just the pressures there are much higher.
I guess you have to know what your goal is, in terms of like, is your goal to be an independent producer? Is your goal to be a studio executive, which is usually why people would take up a executive assistant job.
Mhm.
You're doing, and this is like the weird thing with this, it's like a weird system that was set up in the 50s
Mhm.
and they never got past it somehow.
Yeah.
Because you're rolling calls and you're
Mhm.
like, but you have a cell phone. You can, you don't need to dial someone to dial someone to dial someone to get to the person. But we're still doing that, like when I was an assistant. And you're scheduling. You're basically doing secretary work
Mm.
from Madman. To circle back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it's mind-numbing work. It's work that you can do with your phone. So if you want to be a studio executive, then you have to pay your dues.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say that if you want to be a producer or you want to work in the business side of Hollywood, I think being an assistant will kind of get you there.
Mhm.
And it's kind of the only way in is to be an assistant.
Yeah.
But if you're creative and you're a writer or you're a aspiring director, I would say do production work instead. I
Yeah.
would say be a production assistant, be on set. That is a lot more helpful than sitting on a desk and be like, we need to call so and so. And oh, you forgot to say so and so had lunch at Beverly. You know, like it's the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Cool.
But I do think that with that is like the other problem, not really a problem. So I have writers group and I have friends who are writers. Those who've never worked in the industry, not that you have to, but lacks some kind of understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
And that understanding is more from the business side of things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're not going to read your script because of practical reasons. So it's sort of like if you've been through some internships and you did, I think, a year as an assistant, you sort of have the basic understanding of the business, which I think is helpful for a writer for television.
For sure. I mean, just based on you working in development, like I'm sure you understand the reality of the term development hell, just because you're actually there doing it. Yeah.
And it's most producers don't read the scripts, the interns do, right? Or the assistant, but mostly the interns actually. And the interns, do they know? Like, if you're lucky, you get a good intern. If you don't, you get someone that doesn't know anything. And I think there are a lot of people who are not writers who have development internships, and they might not necessarily know how to fix a script.
Yeah.
So there's that. But you also get to listen to what the Oscar-winning producers say about certain scripts, and their notes are good. So yeah, I think it's I think if you really want it, you should move to LA. But then again, Netflix is setting up in Toronto, so maybe that will open things up. I think it's just depends on the person, depends on their aspirations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. I love it. I love it. Oh, sorry, Josh, did you have something?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk, ask you a bit about like the comedy writing element, because you say you're interested in writing a couple comedies, and since for me, like I started doing comedy, stand-up comedy, about a year. Oh man, I've lost track of time. Time is now an abstract. Like 2 years ago. Geez, coming up in July, I guess. 2 years ago. And like in terms of that, like I went through a kind of a really quick kind of intensive not program. It's really run by two local Toronto comedians about how to write and structure a joke. And I think since then, since like I learned a bit about writing jokes, performing jokes as well, and then like watching comedies myself, getting a sense of like what's the flow of a joke or the comedy within an episode. Like for you, in terms of writing your comedies, are you like approaching it from like a plot point of view, or like, or do you have like certain jokes that come out in your mind and like you kind of develop those jokes further into episodes? Do you have like a specific approach towards writing comedy for TV?
I think comedy in TV in particular is character. It's really, especially now, it's less about the punchline and more about the characters. And so it's weird because, you know, when you move to LA, so in my program at UCLA, you pick a lane. So you do spec writing, speccing an existing show, and then you do your pilot. But I decided not to take any electives and instead do both drama and comedy because I just wanted to try them out both at the same time. So I spec'd Modern Family, and that particular script went into second round at Austin as well. And so you learn from speccing something, and I think it's a very basic thing to do, which is like spec the show that you like, and then you kind of get a hang of different shows. Because I also spec Unreal when it was on.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was that show. It's like behind the scenes of The Bachelor or whatever. And anyway, but like with writing comedy, and it's funny because I'm just outlining my new show, and I'm having so much fun doing it this time, and I would be laughing as I was writing the outline because I just find the situation or the character is really funny. And I think it's, if you're writing for TV series, it's find your character first.
Right.
Because it's not really about world or anything else. Because you want to see that person episode after episode facing problems. So that would be it, I think. But I think it's an advantage for you to be a stand-up comedian, to do comedy like in the future, because how do you say this? This is a very industry thing too. Like developing a drama TV show is very different from a comedy in terms of they like people who are stand-ups or worked on SNL. Like they're like performers, you know? So I would say, you know, keep doing stand-up, and eventually if you're funny, someone will ask you, do you want a show? And then you figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that seems like the pipeline. If ever there was a specific like pipeline of steps that you would like, an outline for a stand-up comedian's career, it would just be like years of languishing at open mics until you have some good material and you're actually a good performer. Then maybe doing some like stand-up sets on like TV spots or late night. And then from there, maybe some producer will be like, maybe we'll give you a development deal. You could try to figure out a show. And then it's like, you just pretty much create a comedy show. Most of the time it's just about you. So it's like, it's just a kind of like a clear, because if all your jokes are already talking about you and your perspective, then that's just the most natural progression into kind of like a TV format.
Yes.
And yeah, and then from there, that's kind of, but getting to that point already as a comedian, actually, just even getting from like not doing any comedy to being a decent comedian already takes years of languish and like obscurity. So that's something like definitely you need some fortitude and focus when it comes to driving yourself and that passion. Um, like to touch upon that, like what would you say is the most like difficult element of, you know, trying to go through this type of developmental process that everybody does face, and the tough challenges and the grind of it? Like what do you kind of do to help keep yourself motivated on your passion?
I I think um if I'm not doing this, I would be really depressed.
Mm.
And I think it's like I was just so unhappy working in advertising.
Oh yeah.
But and it's also this other thing. I know everyone's experience is very different, but I moved like, so, you know, I grew up in Vancouver, you know, I lived in Toronto, I lived in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and then LA. So I moved around a lot. But the only time I felt at home was when I moved to LA and be surrounded with people who are trying to achieve the same thing.
Mhm.
And you know, unfortunately, and especially with the pandemic, and I'm not even going to go into visa problems because
Oh yeah.
even when you're Canadian, Americans don't know that, but we're still a foreigner in the country. So it's not like I can take every job, you know, like there's a lot that is working against you as a foreigner. So I would say, you know, if you really want to do it, don't give up. And I've seen, talking about giving up, like most of my friends who I started out with have given up. And, you know, it's hard. You
Yeah.
need to make a living, right?
Mhm.
And you have to sustain that kind of passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I'm almost to that point where it's like it's not really the ones that are so skilled and talented that make it. It's the ones that just push through and let time kind of filter out the people who are willing to keep on going.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
how to say it? It's kind of like a lot of elements, right?
Totally.
There are a lot
Totally.
of elements,
Hmm.
but I do think depends on what your true passion is. Like, if you want to be a writer and you have a good script, that's it.
Hmm.
If someone doesn't want like your script, you keep sending it. But
Yeah.
if 50 people said your script is not that great, it's probably not that great. Because in Hollywood, there's a saying, no one will say no to a good script.
Mhm.
Everyone wants to read a good script. The intern wants to read a good script. The producer, the director, the actress, no one wants a bad script.
Mhm.
How bad movies get made is another conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that if you're that talented and skilled, then someone will see it. I truly believe that.
Awesome. Speaking of having your work shown, congrats again on pitching your House of Fortune at the ATX TV Festival. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you let us know the synopsis of the story?
Yeah. So my 1 hour, it's a crime family drama
Nice.
series called House of Fortune. It's about a 26-year-old MBA student who wants nothing to do with her family, but her parents were in a car accident and her father died. And she has to fly back to the East Coast to New York, Chinatown, where she has to inherit her father's like illegal casino business. So
Nice.
it's a, you know, it's a Chinese mafia story essentially. Um,
Nice.
and the I came up with the idea, I think early 2017.
Hmm.
And that's when there it was a year after Oscar So White, and it was right after Scarlett Johansson was cast in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
And I before then I was writing something that was like racially blind, right? Essentially it's just like a comedy that anyone can play. You can cast anyone in it. And I was just kind of, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, like, and it was like, how do I write a show? Like, essentially, it's how do I write a show where they're not going to cast Scarlett Johansson in it? And so I wrote a Chinatown story with Chinese. They're all Chinese, and there's barely any white people or any other ethnicities, not even like Koreans, right? And so I came up with that, and it's set in the 1980s. So I wanted a story that is about that, and I wanted, you know, to do a show about gambling, which is not really done before. There's a lot of drug shows, but there's not a lot of gambling shows. And, you know, shows about gambling, why gambling is so important to Chinese culture. And it's about fate and destiny and luck. Like, you know, is my luck good today? Should I try out my luck? So I wanted to do something like that. And I wanted to do a family drama, which I haven't written before at the time. And it was a slow process. I mean, I wrote it for, you know, on and off almost over, let me see, 4 years now, right? Over 4 years. And it's always almost there because there's a lot of plot. And there's, you know, they find out her father it wasn't really an accident. It was a lot of, there's mystery and there's a lot of character building and all that. And so when you're in LA, when you start out, you tend to apply for a lot more competitions that you should, because they're not ready. You know, essentially a script takes time. And so finally, this year I, you know, did another, you know, pass at the script, and I thought it's ready. Like I can't do anymore to it. So I submitted a video pitch that is 90 seconds. And then you go through the process, and then it's also like with Blacklist. So Blacklist would recommend some people, Sundance would recommend some people. And then at the end, they select 10 people, and then you do the pitch. I mean, because I've worked on it for over 4 years, I can talk to anyone about it inside and out. But the challenge with that is, so you do it live and it's 3 minutes.
Wow. Just 3 minutes, 180 seconds?
Yes. And so I did it, and I was the first to do it. And so, you know, it's nervous, it's nerve-wracking. Everyone had different ideas, and some I really do love too. I mean, I think it's like when you reach a certain point, you kind of are okay with not winning or losing, or it's not even about that, because you know that once you're in the finals, you know, at the end they were nice enough to like ask to read everyone's scripts if people have written it. So things like that. And I think pitching is probably my stronger suit. because I come from advertising.
True.
It's kind of like selling something. You have to sell it. The execution is the thing that takes years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also meant to ask you, like, I didn't know you only had 3 minutes. So
Yeah.
in knowing that, how was your preparation process like?
Well, now that I've done it, I would have done
Yeah.
it differently.
Oh.
Like now that I know what their questions are, because they have a Q&A after, to just focus on the character.
Okay.
I told the pilot story because my pilot story was a kind of the origin story, kind of like the, how Michael Corleone became more Michael Corleone, which is a lot to take in for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I should have just focused on the character. But I think you have to set the tone and, excite people, have what's the most exciting thing about your show or your feature or your idea.
Yeah.
And it's logline. Like if your logline is interesting, people will read your script.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's down to that. But the execution is another thing. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And it's crazy. Like I'm taking a screenwriting course right now, and you're totally right. Like if you don't have an attractive logline, no one's going to read your one pager. No one's going to read like the first scene that you might have. Like make sure that logline is sexy as all hell, because it needs to be.
Yeah. And if you can't deliver, and that's what's good and not good. So normally a television pitch lasts 15 to 20 minutes in person. So you have time to like indulge, right?
Yeah.
And kind of give the feeling and tell a few jokes.
Yeah.
But 3 minutes you don't. But it goes down to the core thing of what your show is about. And I think that, for me, it's like now I have, but you can never guess what they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
You can only deliver what you think is best. So I would say, for people starting out, be sure to know the story of what you're writing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they think they know, and then they start writing and they're like, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
For your stories, for your approach to kind of like writing these scripts, then do you find like you want to work on one script by itself for a certain period of time, or do you have multiple kind of ideas and scripts going on at once where it's like that's kind of stopped, maybe I'll try something else for a little bit, come back to it?
Right. Yeah. So when I was in school, you're writing 3-4 things at the same time because you have, to hand in your pages. So I was used to that for a while, but you don't have to focus everyone's process is different. Some people, like, for example, when you're writing a drama, you watch a lot of dramas to get into the mood of writing another drama, or vice versa. I used to write, I could do 2 things at the same time. And then now I just try to focus one at a time. And so I did a year in screenwriting, and then I worked for a year, and then I went back to school for directing.
Oh, wow.
So I shifted gears, and it was weird because it's life circumstances made me go back to school, and then I went into directing, and it's I really love directing. And then so in the directing program, you're writing and you're directing. So during that course of directing, I wrote less,
Yeah.
and it's natural because I'm writing shorts and I'm shooting them and producing them.
Nice.
Blah, blah, blah. And the sad thing was, like, 1 week before I was shooting my thesis, there was a lockdown.
Oh shit.
And I had to shut it down. It was like I was preparing for that moment. It's like a year and a half of this program, and I had the perfect cast. I had, I locked the location down, and I had everything prepared. I had the shot list, everything.
Oh my God.
And I asked my DP, the location, everything was prepared. And then it went away, because, and then every day I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, can we still shoot? Are we going to, and then at the same time, you don't know anything about the virus yet. So you're like, are we going to die?
Oh my God.
Can we risk? So then I have my DP coming to me, I can't risk my crew to, shoot a short film, right? and since then, my lead actress has gone back to Korea because she was a student, and then she's gone back to Korea. I don't know if she's going to come back. Then at the same time, I'm like, I don't know when. So I was planning to shoot on campus, and then UCLA was like, no shoots, right? So I thought it was going to be by the summer, and then no, that didn't happen. By the fall, no, and so now I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to shoot my short film. And so that's another thing. That's another path. And I think it's, you go back and forth, and production is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hopefully we get to see it one day if it gets shot and everything.
Yes. I mean, my aim is I'm going to shoot it by the end of this year.
Oh,
hopefully.
yes.
And I truly want my lead actress to be back and do a shoot with her. But if not, I have to recast again. It's like, that's life.
Yeah, that's the thing with this industry. I'm sure it is for many different industries, but just you really got to roll with the punches in terms of even just locations that you're setting up for, cast and crew. Just everything gets so expensive at the same time too, man.
Yeah, and then now they have, they had COVID protocols. I'm like, I can't afford COVID protocols, right? So there's that. And shooting in LA is hard.
Yeah.
But, I guess eventually I'll shoot it. I mean, the setup of my short is very condensed, and it's one location. And I've written it that way, so it's good. But my original plan was I shoot the short, and then I cut it during the summer, and then I go submit it to festivals, and then meanwhile I do other things. But now it's like, when?
I know. I'm sorry, Shirley. I for you, I hope it all actually goes through.
Oh my God!
For this next year, yes.
So hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go into. Let's do some word association from here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do some zen zoning out after talking about development and production and the hell that was COVID towards creatives across the spectrum. So let's go into our word association game at the end of our podcast. Basically, for our new listeners, this game is I will have 10 words, Lucas will have 10 words, and we ask our guest, Shirley, or not ask, we say these words to, we don't ask, we kind of just say, we just yell them at you, and then you just have to react to each of these words, kind of. So yeah, after we say one word, Shirley, in your zened out mind, you say the first thing that comes to mind. It could be like a word, it could be an image, a feeling, just whatever comes out right away. And then after we go through our 10 words, the other host will do theirs. And I think I'll start, and then Lucas, you're good to finish off, right?
Bingo.
Okay. All right. So Shirley, clear your mind. Take a deep breath and think about better times. Just, everything's good. The schedule's on track. You're under budget. There's no delays, Nobody's getting sick. Everything's good. And your first word, Shirley, is childhood.
Rain. Yeah, I think it's funny because like living in LA, there's no rain.
Yeah.
It's like people are like stops cars during the rain, but like I almost don't remember how much it rained in Vancouver, right? So yeah, rain.
Nice. Solid choice. I mean, essentially for Lucas and I, that'd probably be a similar answer. Second word, banana.
In pajamas.
Nice.
I like the reference.
Yeah, bananas in pajamas. Yeah. Favorite show.
Classic. Next word, sun.
Aging.
Like sunspots.
Yeah, it's just like you just have to put on sunscreen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, people don't tell you that when you're a kid. Just put on some sunscreen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Next word, solitude.
Ooh. I think it's very important to live with your own voice. I just actually canceled my writer's group. I'm like, I have to be in solitude. I don't think I can listen to other people's notes anymore, or I just have to be alone. I think that's important. Yeah.
Nice. Good advice. Next word, goal.
Goal, like goal. I think just be present. I think the goal should be incremental. I think you should have a goal. Aim high. I think to just take it one day at a time.
Nice.
Next word, river.
Flow.
Nice. Next word, circle.
I think if it, in terms of writing, I think if it's good, it'll come back.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to reference like Dan Harmon's like story circle or that whole structure, but no, I like yours better because it's a circle. It'll come back.
It'll come back. I think good ideas or stories or whatever thing you wanted to do, it'll come back. It'll come back.
Nice. Next word, kumquat.
What is that? So it sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it's a fruit. It's a fruit with a funny name that I always like including.
Yeah, I think I'll try it if I haven't already. Yeah. Maybe I just know the other name.
Next word, winning.
I really think the importance of a writer or someone's making something is to be self-aware. I do think that is a win. If if you're aware, like say if your joke is good, you're aware. If your joke is bad, you're aware. I think that's very important to have self-awareness.
Yeah, no, that's definitely important. And finally, last word, finish.
Oh, it's never finished. Yeah, I think writing is never finished. Editing is never finished. But when it's delivered, then it's finished. Yes.
Nice.
Great first 10 words. And Lucas, he's got his, so get ready.
Yeah, I love these anecdotes that you have for every word that are really enlightening. I'm still thinking about the circle one, meditating on that still. All right, you feel good, Shirley? Ready for the
Yes.
next 10? Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, first word of 10. Hollywood.
I think someone once said that Hollywood is where dreams go to die. And but I think Hollywood, you're really there to do stuff. If you're there to dream, it's not it. Don't go to Hollywood to dream. Dream and then go to Hollywood and do something.
Nice. And another location word, LA.
Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles, it's very dry. The first month I moved there, I woke up every day thinking that I have a sore throat. But it was just me not used to how dry it is. And now I don't have that anymore, but it would be like the reaction if I'm in Toronto and I have sore throat, oh my God, I'm getting sick. But it's just how dry it is.
Dry. Okay. Next word, Sony.
Rainbow, like that's the most prominent thing at the Sony studios is Rainbow? That they have the Wizard of Oz rainbow.
Oh, gotcha.
And I do think that there's something magical to work at the lot. Yeah.
Awesome. Next one, Austin.
So I went to Austin. Let me think. Is it 2017 during the Austin Film Festival? And I was there for 4 or 5 days. I forgot how long it was, but every day I wore a clothes of different seasons. It was one day 98 degrees. I guess it's 30, 35. One day it would be freezing. It's like 11 degrees. Basically, I experienced 4 seasons within a week. Wow. And that's what I didn't know about Texas in October.
Yeah. Holy shit. Because we were about to go to Austin for a stag, and I can't imagine like constantly having to rejig my outfit for every new day.
Yeah, because I did have a down jacket, I want to say, like those very lightweight down jacket, but it was like I ended up buying a summer dress at the last day because it was so hot.
Yeah,
it was just very confusing.
That's a great word for Austin.
Yeah.
I love
confusing.
Very
quirky is even the weather is quirky in Austin.
Yeah, and there. So if you guys ever go to the festivals, I'm sure they use a lot of church spaces at these festivals.
Oh, cool.
And so you go in, and then only in Texas, it would be like, do not bring your firearm into the church. That was very surprising to me. I've never seen that outside of a church.
Okay, next word. Tacos.
Ooh. I'm about to say something very controversial. I think my favorite tacos ever is not in LA, but in Kensington Market.
Ooh.
You know that little, I don't know the name of that.
7 Lives?
Maybe, like it's the yellow one at the shop.
Yep.
Is that 7? That's my favorite taco place of all time.
Wow.
And it's very controversial when I say in LA. I'm like, nothing compared to that small store in Kensington Market.
Nice.
Ooh, LA is all up in a riot. Just about their tacos. You can't say that about their tacos. And they're like what? Maybe it's like their hot dogs as well.
Not so much hot. I think Mexican food is their thing. What else is maybe avocado toast? That would be their
Classic.
thing. Or anything vegan. I think they will
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I'm sorry, Shirley. I think you've just been canceled. So I don't think we can air this episode anymore.
I'm gonna stick with it.
Nice. Next word, Asian.
Asian. Yeah, I think not that I've struggled with it a lot, but I think because I spent my middle school and high school in China, even though I was, surrounded by international kids at school, I didn't really feel that much racism until I came back to Canada. And I was in a really white program. So I think it's a hard thing to balance. And it took me a while to kind of lean into it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't actually write any Asian stories before in particular. That's why House of Fortune was the first time I did that. And I'm writing the comedy that's very Asian. And I'm writing a feature it's a horror, Asian horror.
Nice.
So I'm leaning into it, which it's a struggle because you have a lot of advice from different people. So I'm usually the only Asian in every space. And in terms of writing, I think I've gotten notes that are not about the writing. It's about not understanding the culture, and then they want me to explain everything, and then, or like, why can't this character be white? There are things like that. And so I think it's okay to lean in, which it took me a while to get there.
Nice.
Yeah. And like, I definitely support that. I think now is the time where like you're getting senses like now there could be a wave coming as more and more like Asian voices are getting pushed out there and more creatives are focusing on that. Like, I would agree. I think initially just a quick aside, just like, I think I had a couple different ideas for stories myself, like years ago. And I remember for one of them, it would be some kind of like crime story, but like the main character would just, I somehow instinctively just made it a white guy. I was thinking, it's like, what kind of white guy do I want for this story? Because I was thinking a lot more just like plot, and like the main character would just be a white guy detective. And then kind of recently, a year or so ago, when everything was happening and like COVID and stuff, and then I came to more of a conclusion where it's like, if there aren't as many roles for Asians out there, it's not going to be a bunch of non-Asians that are going to write those roles. It's kind of up to Asian creatives to write those roles. So I thought, it's like, why am I thinking of a white guy and trying to come up with some kind of stereotype of a white guy to write, where I should just make him Asian and then just write it through that.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a completely side story to your side story.
Nice.
But,
nice podcast.
So I wrote, a spec for Modern Family, and I went to the festival, and then there was a girl who got into the, CBS writers program.
Oh, cool.
And then I was like, so what did you write? And she spec'd Master of None, and she wrote a pilot called Bad Asians. And she got in, right? And then I'm like, oh my God, like, it's her brand, Yeah. She's writing because she's Japanese American. And that's the first time I'm like, oh, I guess I could do that, because I spec Modern Family, and I wrote a script about a white lady in her 40s, and not that I can't do that, I can, but so I ended up, after a year, through some connections, I met with some managers and some production development people. And the manager, I sent her my script, right? My white lady comedy script. And she was like, why did you write that? And she's an Asian American.
Okay.
I think she's Chinese American manager. And I'm like, I don't know. I just thought it would be fun. And then she was like, but, I don't know how to sell that. And people don't tell you this, but like, you need to write you because you're not really selling the script. They're not buying your script. No one's producing your script. You just have to realize that. You're writing a sample to show who you are. So then they're like, why are you writing about a white lady with a TV show? It's a morning talk show. It's just nothing to do with me, right?
Right.
And it's funny and it's fun and, all that, but no one knows how to market you. And you need those people to market you. So the advice I got was like, oh, I can, write something that is me, which will essentially be Asian. But now, all my Asian projects have a different side. So House of Fortune is a crime family drama. I'm writing a spy show, a spy comedy. And she's like, also this nerd girl who works for the NSA. And she, that's one show. And then my horror movie is about pregnancy. And it's about a woman married into this rich family. And her mother-in-law is crazy, but she doesn't know it yet, because of what, the social element of, Get Out or such a great movie is that there's a commentary. And I personally think the stories I hear about what daughter-in-laws have to put through throughout their pregnancy is horrifying. And I think there's an element in that. So it's choosing something that is you with a voice and a perspective. I think you can just do that.
I love it. Okay, next word. We have
Segue. Just segue.
Fortune.
Yeah. I think it's really about this. Have the support find people that support you.
Yeah.
In your endeavor. Just cut out the negative people around you.
Love it.
I think when I was in my early 20s, I don't do that, right?
Yeah.
But more and more so, I think just your fortune is people around you, and you should value what they contribute to your psyche.
Yeah.
Because it's very important.
And the last word, Shirley.
Oh. I don't know.
Oh.
Ooh, that was deep.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was deep. I don't know. That was deep.
I don't know. I recently wrote like a nonfiction piece that is about my name. Because it's about everything where I end up with my name. And yeah, I think at some point, I think writing can come in different forms.
Yep.
And so I might write more nonfiction essays.
Yeah.
As a different format. But yeah.
Cool. Nice. Honestly, I feel like we can talk for like 5 hours, but thank you so much for coming on, Shirley. That was so good.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Where can people find you? What are your handles?
Shirley_Yip. I think it's my
Shirley.
Twitter handle, but I don't really use it. And Instagram is Shirl's Yip. So SHIRLZ Yip at Instagram. So
Nice.
yeah.
Oh my God. And so of course House of Fortune is still being developed and still being written and everything like that. Can you just please let us know if there's any updates on it? And we'll definitely put you out there because we'd love to see it one day.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Josh, where can people find you?
People can find me across all social media at Josh Yang Comedy. So check that out. Again, check out my Fresh Rice comedy set that was released in May. It was filmed 17 months ago when this hair was all the way up here. So check that out. And of course, also my Sleep with Josh podcast is still out there. I know I haven't done that many episodes in the last couple months, but I'm going to get back to it. So check that out across all listening platforms. And that's Sleep with Josh.
And as an advertisement also for that, it works. It really does put you to sleep.
It does work. Right. I should have explained because now people just think it's a podcast where I tell people to sleep with me. But it's actually a podcast where I utilize my monotone voice. I read very dry material like the dictionary, laws, terms of services for different websites as a way of helping people fall asleep. So you could check that out. My latest one was actually should be on there is the Sanzijing, which is the 3-character classic. Yeah. And I read it in Mandarin, which in and of itself was already a little nerve-wracking because my Mandarin's okay. So you could listen to me read those two and check out for future episodes.
Nice. And everyone can find me across social media at Lucas John Ng. And if you like what you see and hear, you can find us at HWMIY Podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. So give it up for Shirley one more time. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Okay, see you all next week. Bye.